What is up, guys? Welcome back to yet another anime news bit. I'm gonna get you guys fully updated on the news of anime today, including some updates on Stars Align. Yes, that's still a thing. Additionally, we have some big news around HiDive and AMC. They made a big move that I think will, soothe some of the minds around people and thinking that AMC is letting HiDive fall apart. They're sort of still doing that, but we'll get into that, as well as some new updates on the spring anime season. So if you're interested in any of this news, definitely stay tuned. Kicking things off, let's get into the HiDive / Sentai Filmworks news. Yes, AMC Network's Sentai Filmworks has obtained an agreement with Mainichi Broadcasting Systems. This agreement allows HiDive to distribute part of MBS's future programming lineup outside of Asia. Liken it to something like what Disney is doing with Kodansha and other companies are doing with certain broadcasting networks. Whatever kind of producing stuff that those broadcast networks do, they're able to sort of have priority over them, or some exclusivities. Currently, part of this agreement is the most heretical last boss queen from villainous to savior, which is a series that is coming up here soon. Looking into MBS broadcasting on Mao, I did note that Tear Moon Empire is also another one that is fully produced, or at least listed as being fully produced by MBS. So Tear Moon might actually end up on HiDive as well, and that is a 2013 title. Yes, some might note that Endo and Kobayashi Live, the latest on Tsundere Villainous Liselot, is another one of those titles, and so it kind of makes me believe that either this agreement was being put into play for quite a while now, which I would probably say that's a given, but at least kind of shows that that was kind of one of the first one possibly they got from MBS before the agreement was done. John Ledford, president of Sentai Filmworks, stated that this is truly a historical agreement. I'm not sure about that. I guess for HiDive, yes, for HiDive, and is a culmination of our partnership with MBS. The most heretical last boss queen and the other series will significantly elevate HiDive's reputation with fans as not only the new go-to anime streaming platform, but also as the pipeline for some of Japan's most highly anticipated titles. John, you need to bring that down a couple notches here. I mean, I am super excited for the heretical last boss and also Tear Moon, but let's chill out a little bit there. Let's chill out a little bit there. That's the unfortunate thing. It's like one of those aspects of HiDive is honestly trying to scrape together a lot of the great titles that are out there that I honestly love. Like most of the offering last year, most of my favorite anime of last year was on HiDive. Now, I acknowledge fully that the greater picture, the mass public of anime fans, they're looking for the big shonens. That's where all the clicks go to. That's where all the views go to. It's the big shonens. It's Demon Slayer, it's Attack on Titan. Those are the ones with millions upon millions of views. But I will say that I do love the offerings that HiDive has personally, and they're mostly the stuff that's kind of off the beaten path, the stuff that's not your typical shonens. And that's going to be the case, I think, with The Last Boss, and it's going to be the case with Tear Moon. Those ones I'm excited for. Those are the ones actually I am most excited for versus other fans that are typically after the shonens. But that's fine. If he wants to believe this is like the biggest deal ever, he's got to make it the biggest deal ever. This is a big deal for them, and I'm hoping this will at least usher in a lot of great titles to them. I just want to set the expectations for this whole thing. Them getting an agreement with a broadcasting network, we're talking about maybe 1 or 2 titles per year. It's not like MBS has 15 shows they're putting together every single year. Mainly the key note here, and I've seen some people noting this, some people were going crazy going, whoa, MBS is on the production committee for things like Attack on Titan, Fullmetal Alchemist, and Jujutsu Kaisen. That doesn't mean they get those titles. Those titles have other companies that have ownership of those licenses, and they have the majority ownership of them. It's just MBS put some money into it so they can broadcast it as well. So keep the expectations there in check. That's just like when Disney made that agreement with Kodansha, everybody was going, oh no, now it looks like Attack on Titan is going to be exclusive on Disney. No, wait. There's agreements already in play. Shinji Nakano, the director of Mainichi Broadcasting Systems, stated, in recent years, anime has become a solid representation of Japan culture and has gained fans all around the world. We are pleased to partner with Sentai Filmworks, HiDive, and AMC Networks, a group that plays a huge part in the effort to further expand anime culture. That I can mostly agree with. Again, it's not the big dog. HiDive is probably never going to be the big dog. I would hope for them to be, but what they do offer is significant, and I do love them as a competition to something like Crunchyroll and Funimation, which is why I think this agreement's great. It at least shows me personally, unless this has been in works for like 2 years, which it possibly could have been, this at least shows me that despite the fact that there's a lot of doom and gloom happening around HiDive, especially with them dropping a lot of old licenses, this shows me there's still future thinking. I think the problem that we're really having right now with the mixed messages around HiDive is that a lot of people believe that lost licenses equals company dying. Now, AMC is laying off a lot of people. And that is a big, huge concern for HiDive as a company underneath them. But I think for HiDive themselves, I'm hoping right now this is a sign that AMC realized that HiDive is future-proof. AMC is having a problem because they are not future-proof. They are a company that is dying because of wire cutters, people dropping off of broadcast television. And so they're trying to look for future stuff, VOD, it's internet, it's that kind of stuff. And I think when they bought HiDive, there was a chance they were buying HiDive because they were hoping that Sony would pay a fortune for it as well. But there was a hope that they were buying HiDive because they wanted a future thing. And they seen that anime was doing well. Sony's buying a big company. Obviously, there's money in anime. Let's get into it too. And my hope is that for AMC, HiDive is the thing that's making them money right now. And if it's making them money, they're going to continue to push them to get licenses. As like Hulk and stuff was recently announced that HiDive will be having that as well. They might be dropping older titles, because honestly, nobody watches older titles very often. If you're looking at the spectrum of viewership on HiDive, most of it's going to be current season. There might be a little scatter of people that are checking out older shows, but it's not enough. So at the bare minimum, it's good that HiDive is looking future and saying, okay, keep getting titles, keep the subscriptions coming in by getting more titles. If they ever get to a point where they're dropping down to one show a season, that's when they're going to have a problem. That's when they're going to go downhill very quickly. But again, this is good news. I'm happy to see they're still in the game. They're still fighting, and hopefully whatever titles they get from this whole agreement works out well for them. Just John, set the expectations there. Just set the expectations there. But no, the most heretical last boss queen from Villainous to Savior, the cover, she looks totally like mine from A Sin is a Bookworm, and I'm like, wait, is this some sort of spinoff? I'm looking forward to it. More villainous shows. And breaking news just popped up as I was editing this video. Sentai Filmworks has announced that Distribution Solutions will be handling their distributions going forward. For those who don't know, Right Stuff has mostly handled Sentai Filmworks distributions. Like if you even bought from Sentai Filmworks' actual web store, it was most of the time shipped from Right Stuff. So it does seem like, yes, while they did handle some themselves, Right Stuff handled most of it. But it does look like maybe possibly they're trying to move away from having Right Stuff be their sole distributor. They're still going to distribute stuff at Right Stuff, but I think it's like most of their warehousing and stuff is going to be handled by Distribution Solutions going forward. And that's probably more because the price difference there, they find some benefit with Distribution Solutions handling it. I don't think that's because Sony bought Right Stuff, suddenly they want to get away from Right Stuff, because I know personally from some conversations in the background, Right Stuff is still working very well with Sentai Filmworks. They still have a lot of partnerships with them. So it's not as if there's bad blood here or anything like that. I don't want people to get the wrong idea here. I do want to point out specifically this is for sales, order processing, distribution, operational, and back office services for Sentai products. This doesn't have anything to do with actual production of Blu-rays and DVDs. This is strictly a distribution company, so Sentai Filmworks is still handling the actual production of Blu-rays and whatnot. So kind of crazy news, kind of expected. Like I said before, I sort of expect this from the buyout and them probably trying to get away from relying on Right Stuff. Again, not as bad blood, but more probably because Distribution Solutions probably a better fit for them. And it's important to note this will be beginning on April 3rd. So from that point on, most anything new and whatnot will be going by their standards. Now, the other kind of interesting thing that comes from this is that it says that the company will begin soliciting Sentai's new releases starting from June, at which point the pricing will shift to DS pricing schedule. There's a big concern there. Pricing schedule makes me believe that they're going to be handling the costs and whatnot for the product itself. So it makes me kind of wonder if there's a possibility that this could be a good or a bad thing for the pricing of the products themselves. Does this mean that they're going to be better prices? Does it mean there's going to be worse prices? I think, again, going back to my thoughts on Right Stuff handling Sentai Filmworks distribution, Right Stuff was a small company. They handled a lot of really big sales with Sentai Filmworks, but they were a small company. My question that I have now is because if Distribution Solutions is a bigger company, that means that they can possibly have better pricing, or does it mean it's going to have worse pricing? We'll have to wait and see. I think it's going to be telling later this year when you start to see Sentai Filmworks sales come up, if they're still going to have those really big sales where you're buying Blu-rays for like $10. Moving on from that, we have Crunchyroll Anime Awards happened. Most people probably already know what won and already know everything that happened. It was okay. The Crunchyroll Anime Awards was okay. I have a full live stream, not the full live stream. I have a edited version of the live stream that I did on Twitch on the YouTube channel, so check that out. We had a lot of fun making fun of the auto AI translator that kept saying anime condo rather than anime community. It was The translations was bad. The translations was real bad. But I think the big surprise in that Anime Awards was obviously that Cyberpunk Edgerunners, a non-Crunchyroll title, actually won Anime of the Year, which I predict is probably because the judge amount pushed it towards that direction, because I think the popular vote is obviously going to go to something like Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan. But I think because possibly Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer, their vote was so split, and you have the judges kind of pushing Cyberpunk, I think that's what kind of elevated it a bit. Or in general, I think it could have been the fact that Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer was so split on vote that Cyberpunk was able to win because it had more focus there. So either way, it was a huge shock. Obviously, Atsuka, which I believe did the script for Cyberpunk, when he went to the stage, he was shocked. Like, everybody had to tell him, dude, go up, go up. He was like, wait, this is supposed to go to the Crunchyroll stuff. I was the only one that showed up here because I figured nothing was going to be awarded to Cyberpunk. But it worked out, and it was a pleasant surprise. I did love that Licorice Recoil got original anime. That was a win. I think the biggest upset for me personally was Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation once again failing to get fantasy. They lost it to Slime last year, and this year they lost it to Demon Slayer. Whatever. Don't care. Nobody cares about the Anime Awards, right? Moving on. We're moving on. Another bit of cool news for HiDive is they have added the English sub and dub version of Babylon to their platform, which I think is really awesome. For those who don't know, Babylon was a series that aired on Amazon Prime, that service. It was a really cool series. It was actually one of my favorite shows of that year, and I really highly suggest checking it out. It's a psychological thriller anime. It's pretty much about like this whole group that's kind of this political party that's being created that's trying to push the idea of allowing for people to essentially take drugs and in their own lives. And it turned out to be really mind-bending. I really did enjoy it, and it's really awesome. I think HiDive has already released a Blu-ray version of it, so they're just now getting the streaming rights for it. So definitely check that one out. That's a huge recommendation for me. For our next bit of news, Kadokawa has announced that Surgeon Elise manhwa is getting a TV anime adaptation. This is going to be animated by Maho Films. Kumiko Habara, who did work on I'm Taming the Final Boss, is going to be directing it. The anime story follows Aoi Takamoto, who was once an evil empress named Elise, before being executed by her husband Linden. When Elise is reincarnated into the modern world as Aoi, she becomes a surgeon to atone for her mistakes. However, after she dies in a plane crash, this girl's got no luck. She is once reincarnated back into her former life, as Elise 10 years before her execution. She avoids marrying Linden this time around, good choice, to prevent the tragedy. With her medical knowledge, she decides she wants to become a doctor again in this life. That's actually a really cool concept there. It's like a double reincarnation, but kind of going back and a time jump there. So we'll see how that one turns out. Could be a really cool redemption story. Moving on, Stars Align. Yes, that show, that original series by 8-Bit. It feels like a decade ago. I think it was actually not that far ago, like 2019. Yeah, it was an original series that was, honestly, it had some good aspects to it. I think it was a little bit bogged down by the melodrama, but the big concern, obviously, with Stars Align is that it felt unfinished, and it was an original series, so the big question mark was, were they ever going to finish it, or was it going to go into a source material or something like that, some way of continuing the story? Well, the director has been trying to get a sequel done. He's been wanting to do another core for the series, but I think he's stated that he's not been able to get the funding for it. So it actually looks like he wants to get the story out there. He wants to write a sequel story for it and post it publicly in Japanese. But he does note that his health hasn't been great for the last 2 years, so writing it has been taking some time, which makes me wonder, how are you planning on doing a sequel if your health isn't good that you can't even write the sequel? I don't know the full context there. It seems a little vague, but that's still cool for the Stars Align fans. He even also acknowledges the fact that the overseas fandom for this series wanting a sequel has been pretty much greater than domestic. So he's at least acknowledging the global fans for the series. So if you're a big fan of that series, your voice is being heard. Either way, cool stuff. I hope for him, because it sounds like he's very passionate about it. It seems like there's a lot of passionate fans. I would love for it to get a sequel anime, but if it has to be done through just writing it and getting it publicly out there, it's kind of cool. Note that he wants to write it and put it out publicly. Doesn't mean necessarily that he has the legal ability to do so, so don't expect that to 100% be happening. Just that he wants to do that. He did say that he was wanting to do like an auto translations for other languages, but he says there's been some issues around that, so probably some translations issues and he's not able to check it. Either way, I hope that works out for the fans, but got more sad the fact that he's pretty much giving up on the idea of having a sequel anime. Moving on, Shueisha Shonen Jump Plus has announced that Aharen-san is Indecipherable has entered its final arc. So if you've been keeping up with that manga series, just know that it's going to be going into its final arc. It doesn't mean it's necessarily done with the next manga or anything like that. It just means the final story. Some other manga news. We have the official Twitter account for Battle Angel Alita Mars Chronicle has announced that the manga will delay until summer. This is, of course, an extended delay from its previous announced delay to spring. So if you're following that series, just be expecting more delays. And finally, to wrap things up, we have some dates set for spring for certain titles. We have Tokyo Mew Mew's second season will premiere on April 4th. Koopa Won't Let Me Be Invisible is returning finally on April 4th. Golden Kamuy also Season 4 will be returning finally to restart on April 3rd. Demon Slayer Swordsmith Village Arc is going to premiere on April 9th. Kuma Bear second season will premiere on April 3rd. Insomniac's After School premieres on April 10th. Gundam The Witch from Mercury on April 9th. The Marginal Service starts on April 11th. And finally, The Aristocrats Otherworldly Adventure Serving Gods Who Go Too Far will premiere on April 2nd. So there you go. It's already looking like it's time for me to do my preview for the next season, which is kind of scary. We're already looking at the next season. But hopefully next season doesn't have 66 plus titles and falls apart. But we'll see, because we got a lot of stuff that's just being carried over from winter. So anyhow, that's all the news I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this anime news bit. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what's the most exciting news for you. Do you think this looks good for HiDive, that they're at least keeping in the game? Or do you think they're still going downhill and this is just a dying breath that's a contract they have already established? Let me know. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel, and y'all take care.